so everyone know who's on the call. Laura, just say if you're present, please. Laura?
Present.
Linda?
Present.
Loretta?
Yes, I'm here.
George?
Present.
Rabbi Barbara? Heard you.
Present.
Nee?
Nee.
Nee? Okay, Carolyn?
Here, present.
And Suzanne?
Yes, present.
And Julie?
Yep.
So I think that's everyone except Nee?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So we do have a quorum, so thank you, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order, and I will again ask for a brief moment of silence for those who experienced the loss and an acknowledgement of the work of all the first responders and caregivers. Thank you for that. And I'm now looking at the agenda. The first order of business is an approval of the minutes of the June 25th meeting, which you all should have had a copy of by email. If you've had a chance to review the minutes, have any questions or changes to make, I'll take them now.
Motion to accept.
I second.
Please announce yourself, just for the minutes and for ease of Sheila, just announce when you're speaking who you are, please.
Laura Inserto, motion to accept.
And
Linda
George
Di
Markley
Lorenzo,
is
I
second.
second it.
Oh. Linda beat me to it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. This is Bernie. A motion to accept and approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, consider the minutes approved. Thank you for that. Old business, we have Carolyn. Carolyn, I have heard that you've been attending Board of Health meetings. Is there anything to report?
Only that the nursing homes seem to be very stable at the moment.
Good.
That's the only thing that we talked about.
Good to hear. Yes, good to hear. And have they?
Yeah, you can.
Sorry.
You can go. They have the new list out for the Connecticut nursing homes. I found it today too. So anybody could go online and see.
What does that mean? What do you mean, list?
The Fairfield patch comes out. Yeah, it has how many people are in a nursing home, how many have been sick, et cetera, and how many have passed away. And the Fairfield patch puts that out. So you could, if you get that, you can probably read it there yourself.
Now, Carolyn, it's Suzanne Testani. Just a quick question. Does that also encompass assisted living facilities or just long-term care? Okay. Thank you.
It's all three.
All right, thank you for that. And Carolyn, has the board been meeting monthly by teleconference?
Yes.
Okay.
They won't meet in August either.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for that. Are there any questions?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is the retreat, and I'll turn it over to Laura.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Bernie. This is Laura Inserto. So in our last call, we made a determination that as a commission, we would like to meet and have an internal retreat, and we're yet to pick a date or a location, but we do want to, if we can, to have it in person because we think that's important. Several members of our commission stepped up and were willing to serve on the committee, and Barbara, George, Linda, Bernie, and myself are going to participate, as well as, of course, Julie, our fearless leader. and come up with an agenda for the items that we would like to have discussed during that retreat. I think it was a unanimous decision as well to engage a facilitator. And I have put out a suggested person and actually discussed it with Bernie and George, who has a lot of contacts in this space, the human services space. And I just wanted to make certain today during our meeting that it's okay if I reach out to Dorothea Brennan, who I am a personal friend of, but also have a lot of experience with from my board service at Fairfield University. Dorothea and I served on the Alumni Board of Directors, and her past experience is working at People's Bank for many years as a vice president, and then leaving People's, she joined Northeast Utilities, I think that's what it's called, and worked for them as a facilitator in their Human Resources Division. And she is now a contractor as a facilitator. She also serves as a commissioner on the police commission here in Fairfield. So I thought she would not only bring local support and recognition, but also experience in facilitating different types of meetings and scenarios. So I just wanted to ask if it would be okay, Bernie, for me to reach out to her and tell her about our plan and also discuss the past retreats we've held and kind of what was involved so that she had a full picture of kind of what we were looking for.
I have a question, Barbara. Do we know what our budget is to bring someone in?
We don't really have one. This is Laura. I don't think that I would approach Dorothea in mind of having her charge us. Because
okay, good. Okay.
She's a Fairfield, as I said, volunteer on many things, and I would definitely approach her with the suspect that there wouldn't be a charge. But if there is, I'll certainly communicate that.
Okay,
but
good.
I wasn't planning on paying her for her services.
Good, that'd be wonderful.
That's amazing.
This is Laura. For two things. First, what was Dorothy's last name?
Brennan, Brennan.
Okay,
Dorothea.
Thank you. And thank you. And the other thing was just to we had emailed that I had also volunteered to be on the.
Oh, Loretta, I'm sorry, I left you out.
But it sounds like,
sounds
like the whole commission is there. That it's just too many people. So I don't know if that was just an oversight or not, but it sounds like there's an awful lot of people who put their name forward to be on the committee.
Well, actually, it's Laura. Bernie and I discussed that, Loretta, because I was really quite pleased to see the response to those that wanted to serve. And it isn't quite the entire commission, but we thought that the mix of individuals would bring a lot to the party. And I think that, given that when people step up, you don't want to turn them away. So I think that the number that we have is a good number. It isn't quite the full commission, but I take into consideration your comments.
Okay, but you didn't mention me, so I didn't know if that was, since when you named off everybody, I was not included there.
You are. Absolutely.
I am. Okay.
Yes. Bernie, is there anything else you wanted to add?
This is Bernie. Unless I don't think I have no objections, or I'd actually be supportive of Laura reaching out to see if this proposed facilitator would be interested. It would just help move the process a little bit. And of course, if there's other candidates that any of the commission members think might be appropriate, I'm sure you could forward the names to Laura for consideration as well.
Please. I would very much appreciate that.
Laura, it's Suzanne Testani. I just want a little bit more about the backstory on the on the retreat? Who actually gets invited to it? Do we charge for attendance? Like, I'm not quite, versed on it. Could you just enlighten me a bit?
Sure. So over the years that I've served on this commission, I've attended 2 retreats, Suzanne, and basically it's kind of like a self-examination of what our mission is, and are we focused on the mission? Do we want to change direction? Do we want to see ourselves doing things that perhaps we're not doing right now, or, stop doing some things we're doing? So it's really a self-examination. It usually is from like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have a nice lunch together, and it's always been in a beautiful setting. We've had it at the Jackie Durrell Pavilion, which is such a lovely place to meet because it opens up everybody's minds looking out at the water. So
definitely.
Really yeah, it's wonderful. And we had a facilitator, the same facilitator for the last 2 retreats. I'm sorry, Julie, remind me of her name from the Fairfield Friends Library.
Christine Tierney.
Christine Tierney. So Christine just helped us stay on track with some questions and, kind of like a guideline that we provided to her. And it was mainly a discussion and, a recap of, next time we get together, let's see if we've achieved some of those, objectives that we discussed. Some good things came out of it, but really it's mainly just regrouping and, determining are we on the right track as a commission.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Thank
Suzanne,
you.
if I may add, one of the things that we thought the retreat might help support is helping the commission members develop an agenda for the next year or so in terms of areas of interest that might be supportive of the department and the work that Julie's doing. So it's really trying to identify new initiatives and progress, and there might be some subcommittee work that emerges out of that would carry over to the commission meetings next year. So
I understand.
Principally is defining, and it's by and large it's commission members. Whether or not we invite department staff to either present or attend or briefly attend, or have 1 or 2 community stakeholders who might help inform the discussion come for a brief period of time is still part of the planning process. But we've done both of those previously. So it's really just and if there's other ideas about how we might make this work for everyone and support the department, that should be emerged during the planning.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's Laura. So Bernie, on the heels of reaching out to Dorothea, I believe that we're looking at getting together as a subcommittee, I think in the August timeframe, if everybody that has stepped up to volunteer can commit to that. And that would be kind of a first blush, discussion on how we would like to structure the retreat, which we would then present to the commission in September with a time frame of August, November for the actual retreat to occur. Is that correct, Bernie?
Yes. Where we left it the last time is that we would present a plan for the retreat at the September meeting with a view to having the retreat mid to late October, early November, something along that time frame. So if that's basically where we left it, I think the last time we spoke about this at a meeting.
Right.
So,
okay.
This is Barbara. So, Laura, are you anticipating that when you said the slot that we usually would have met in August, is that what you're aiming for, or any time in August?
Yeah, it would be probably any time that this small ad hoc committee would be available. So I would likely.
And are you aiming to do it on the phone or Zoom or in person, socially distant?
That's a good question. What do you think would be most effective?
Well, obviously, I always prefer in person, but it's a bunch of us, so next best, I think, would be Zoom, and least would be telephone, but that's, my opinion, but I don't know, how do others feel?
This is
Linda,
Bernie. It
I
just
agree
occurs
with
to me
what you
that
just
if
said.
more than 2 or 3, I'm not quite sure the exact number, get together on any commission business, we may have to post a meeting. Julie, we may have to take some guidance on this and maybe defer decision about the format until we have understanding about what our FOI requirements are on this.
Yep, I do know that Sheila just sent a message that I'm sorry, I have to open it up to read it. I know that you need a quorum to be able to, if you have a quorum of people, you need to post the meeting. So if you want to do it in executive session or in a different way, then you have to stagger it or something. But you can you can have a meeting similar to this and have it recorded. It's not if you're just doing planning, it's fine to call it a meeting and have it recorded. Otherwise, you do have to do a little bit more planning. Like around who's gonna.
Right.
If you have to do it in 2 meetings with a smaller group, or if you have to, or you want to do executive session. And we are required right now to have our meetings virtual. Sheila just reminded me that we have to meet virtually. We're not allowed to meet in person.
Okay, so this is Laura. Julie, so if I understand what you're saying, then we would have to meet virtually, but we wouldn't necessarily have to make it a recorded executive session, correct?
Well, if you go with the executive session route, then you meet, you call the meeting to order, you go into executive session, you stop recording, and then you come out of executive session and adjourn the meeting. That's one.
So
and
that's
if you
required for a committee?
Well, that's required if you want to meet as a group of more than your quorum. And if you're meeting, or you could post a meeting, have it run like this, that you're recording it, so it's available to the public, or you meet with a small group. That's not a quorum.
So just for clarification, if the planning committee is under 4, we can basically plan without posting. Not that we're trying to, but does that give us as long as we're not a quorum, or as long as the planning committee doesn't have a quorum of members?
Yes.
It can meet by conference call or however. So that and that number would be up to 4.
Is that how many quorum is for this group?
Well, we have more than that for this committee.
5 makes a quorum, I think.
Right. So this is Barbara. So if it was 4, I think that's an issue because let's say we had Bernie, Laura, and Julie, obviously that's already 3. And so then it would be like one person sort of outside, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and you're saying
Bernie wouldn't be part of the quorum.
No.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm not including
all right.
in that.
Oh, okay. So you and Julie wouldn't count necessarily.
Yes.
Bernie,
okay.
I think you would count, no?
Bernie would count. Julie would
count.
Well, why don't we defer on this until we have clarification about how we can meet and then the number of people that can do it. I'm almost at the point where I'd be happy to step aside in favor of one of the commission members who have volunteered. So could we tentatively, Laura, if I may suggest that we get clarification on how we can organize as a planning, or you can organize as a planning committee and then let the members know and then schedule the first meeting of that, and that we'll advise everyone who has volunteered about the process. Would that be acceptable?
That sounds acceptable, Bernie. Yes, this is Laura. Yes.
All right.
It's Julie. I just want to mention, if you're going to meet during your regularly scheduled time, it might just be. I mean, there's nothing that you're talking about that would matter if a member of the public listened to it. It might be easier just to schedule that meeting, but you know, and
Right.
have it record like this, you know.
Right.
This is Bernie. I just have a sense that it might take more than one call or point of contact to agree on a document to submit at the next meeting. And I think we just maybe need to give it a little bit more thought, but with the view of having something to report on at the September meeting.
Okay.
Yep. I just don't have an easy answer right now. I'm sorry about that, but I think I didn't really think through or didn't have a conversation with Laura about how the planning committee might organize themselves in time for the purpose of producing a report to the committee. So
this is Laura. The way that I envisioned, just so everybody has a sense, is what I was hoping to do was to give those members that are interested in serving on the committee, obviously, where we left off at the last retreat, because that hasn't been talked about for over a year and a half. So this is where we left off, and as a committee, I wanted to develop an agenda for this upcoming retreat. In other words, you know, get a sense from each member on this committee of how they could see us having a robust and meaningful retreat. Because, you know, I'm not quite sure that the last two retreats really yielded what, Bernie, you mentioned, which is how do we want to set our agenda for moving forward? Like I said, it seemed to me like it was a self-examination more than it was action items. But you know what? I'm going to ask Linda. Can you weigh in on this for me? Because you were involved in the last two as I was. What was your
Right, I agree. It's Linda. I agree with what you said, Laura. Those two meetings were essentially, we were really looking at ourselves and kind of what we've accomplished kind of thing. I don't think we had that much projection in it, if I remember correctly.
No. And if that's truly, this is Laura, if that's truly what we're trying to achieve from this upcoming one, then I think we approach it in a much different way.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my sense.
You know what we should do, Laura, maybe? Well, no, we'll talk about this. I was going to say we should probably review the minutes of the last two retreats. I mean, people that were, you and I were on the committee, but other people weren't. Maybe they ought to take a look at that.
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know. Maybe we can send that to everybody.
I could email everybody the results of the last two to take a look at before we physically talk in August. So then you have some kind of a sense of what was, you know, included in that retreat. And, you know, we certainly don't want to repeat the same thing. I think we want to be a little bit more proactive and maybe, you know, out of the box.
A little more creative.
Well, Laura, Suzanne Castani, you certainly have a lot of topics. You know, the times have changed, obviously, since the last year and a half. So you're probably not going to be wanting for direction. You know what I mean? Especially with
probably what were
you won't be wanting for direction. I'm sure there'll be, you know, look what's happened in the last year and a half. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And truly,
no, but Laura, that would be helpful to see what, you know, the minutes from the last ones, and then, like you say, with the goal, and I completely agree, of where do we go from here, not looking, you know, as much as, you know, an evaluation of what we've done, but where do we want to be and how do we start putting plans in to get there.
Exactly,
yeah,
Barbara.
Because and I think Julie is going to be a big component of that. You know, I mean, we've had many sessions in our commission meetings alone where we've talked about, do we want a new complete new senior center. And I know that there's some kind of discussions that have occurred between the first select woman and Julie on that. So there could be like total new direction that this retreat could involve that wouldn't, you know, necessarily be the same old. It could be one subject that we really need to speak to in detail that would follow with the objective of not only Julie's long-term plan, but also of our town. Does that make sense, Julie?
It does. I also, while we're talking and I'm listening attentively, I do have the minutes from Terry from the last two reports. One was 2017, one was 2016. So I'm going to send those to you so you can see those the minutes. And the first one is Christine Tierney's report, and then the second one was Terry and his note. So I think it makes a lot of sense to. I'm excited about this. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to take stock and figure out where we want to go.
Right. And the background is really helpful.
Yeah.
And this is Bernie, and to Barbara's point about the changing times, or the point made about changing times, I do remember that one of the reasons for the first retreat was one of the pivots from the commission almost exclusively being focused on the facility and beginning to think of its mandate by the charter as looking at the department and the support for social services within the town. So it became a little bit more social service focused, which was important. And out of the second retreat, of course, that was a lot of the momentum behind the Committee for People with Disabilities. It really gave it a sort of put a wave behind it that got it to the point where it is now, which I know we're in a little bit of suspension at the moment, but it was the retreat momentum that I think really moved that. So I think the notion of context and changing times is also important. But I will again come back. I think that the one of the objectives will be how the Commission defines an agenda in terms of initiatives and support for the department for the next work year. So
this is Laura. I just want to recap then. I am going to receive from Julie the information from the last two retreats that I will share with the ad hoc committee members. And in that email that I sent to you, put some dates in my email as to when might make sense for a virtual, and it sounds like phone call like this. Is that correct?
Or you could do a Zoom. Somebody was saying earlier that, this is Suzanne, that they would, I think, Barbara, you said it, face-to-face type of thing, and at least you could see the people.
Exactly.
Right.
Or a WebEx,
I like that. This is Laura. I don't have a Zoom account. I don't think our town does either. Correct, Julie?
Right, we have a Bigelow account that we pay for. But remember, if your meeting it depends on the size of the group. We have to post it and allow for minutes to be taken, and the town uses this WebEx system. So it really depends on the size of the group. Yeah.
And then you don't get kicked off like you would with Zoom either. Zoom is a little bit cranky sometimes as far as the time limits.
Mm-hmm.
So
does that mean that the town, Julie, that yours is a video? Is it video?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, great.
WebEx.
And this is Laura. What is the limitation for number of people for using that, Julie?
It's not the number of people using it from our side. We can have up to 100. It's the number of people you have based on your quorum and that structure that we have to still figure out.
Oh, okay.
And we have that unlimited time period too. But and then for Zoom, if you're having a quorum, if you have more than a quorum, then we can't use it. We've got to use the WebEx for the recording of it.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, hi, it's Linda. Then, Julie, we'll hear from you in terms of whether, or Laura, either or both of you, whether it's going to be a WebEx or it's going to be a phone thing like today.
Yeah, I think your committee needs to decide how many people, because that's going to be the dictating.
Oh, okay, right. You got to see what the rule is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the rules, anything over anything that's a quorum or over has to be posted.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not the end of the world.
All right, Bernie, you and I will talk about it then, because like you said, if you need to step out, you're happy to do that just to make the process less complicated. I mean, I'm hearing from the proposed committee members that they would prefer to have a Zoom face-to-face. So if we have to figure out how to do that under that quorum to achieve that, then maybe we could have two committees.
Right. I was thinking worst case, you could have one group meet and then the other group meet, and that might be interesting as well, and see.
And
I'm not quite sure if we want to discuss ways of going around the town's requirements on this call.
Right, exactly. But it might be interesting to see if two different groups come up with something similar or very different, and that would be fascinating.
Right.
Okay, I think the most we can promise today is, as Laura suggested, we'll do an advisory on the next steps on this once we had a chance to review what our requirements are under the town, and then how best to proceed. But we will send an advisory.
All right,
is there any other questions?
Yeah, a quorum for this group is 5, so it would be 4 or fewer.
Yeah, so not that I'm seeking to avoid posting, but I do think you're going to need more than one communication. And to manage that effectively, I think the committee probably is going to be maxed out at 4. There'll be plenty of opportunity for participation and input in this. That's the whole purpose of it. But for planning purposes, in terms of a date, a facilitator, and anyone who wants, we will solicit comments, Laura, I'm going to suggest that comments be solicited and things like that on a working draft. So there will be opportunity for input and suggestions before we commit to the retreat plan. But it may just be the fact that we limit the planning committee to 4 commission members for the time being.
Bernie, it's Linda. I'd be more than happy to bow out if you needed to get to 4 and have some of the newer people look at it. Like you, I'd be willing to do that, Laura.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, I'm just looking at the clock. Is there any other items on the retreat that we can usefully discuss now?
This is Laura. I don't believe so, Bernie.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Laura. On the agenda next, we have Loretta, Committee the Committee for People with Disabilities.
Julie said she had not had contact with the first select women?
Not about this, no. Yeah.
Okay, so we have nothing new to report at this time.
Okay, thank you, Loretta. Julie, the Friends of the Bigelow Center, were you?
I got a report from them. They would like you to know the following. They are currently sponsoring a weekly current events discussion group led by Mark Albertson, who's a historian. They did June and July, and they've just agreed to do August as well. That's a weekly Zoom call. That's about 2 hours. It has anywhere from 15 to 25 people on it. It's a really wonderful program. They are sponsoring a barbecue next Friday, a hot dog drive-through barbecue at the center on the 31st between 12 and 1, if you would like to swing by to say hi, and they'll pay for that. They are helping us with emergency kits for homebound seniors and homebound residents in Fairfield. For hurricane season, we're doing backpacks for seniors and homebound people that have things like flashlights, their file of life, or like an emergency kit. Of course, I can't think of another thing to put in it right now, but Ziploc bags, an emergency kit like the Red Cross would make. But the Friends are providing us with the actual bags to put everything in, and we've asked all the senior providers, agencies, the home care agencies, and the assisted livings to help us fill those bags with specific emergency items. Batteries, that kind of thing. So the Friends are helping us with that. And they are also working on bringing us more programs for the fall that are evenings that are most likely Zoom evening programs. And that's it from the Friends.
All right, thank you, Julie.
Right.
Having been to one of the Hot Dog Fridays, as they say in Michelin Land, it's worth a detour. So if anyone has time to stop by for the Friday hot dogs, it's worth a trip.
It is. It's great. It is great.
Department update. Julie, I think you're on again.
I am. I mentioned the emergency kits. Melinda and Amy Luciano, our two social workers, are working on those. And also the entire staff is updating our at-home emergency list, and that's for seniors and homebound Fairfield residents in case of an emergency. Since it's hurricane season, we're trying to be very prepared for that, and that's going pretty well. We are also still processing the applications for the COVID Relief Fund. As you know, Social Services reviews the applications, vets them, and I present them to the COVID committee. And so far, they have yet to reject any of the applications because they really are very well done and well processed. And part of the benefit of that is that we are seeing these clients, many for the first time, but we're also able to access other services and resources for them before they even get to the COVID fund. So it's working out very, very well. Our campership, we thought was going to be very slow because there are not many camps, but we are processing a lot of camps for Parks and Rec and for Wakeman Boys and Girls Club and a couple of art schools. We help, almost 50 kids so far we've helped this year. Usually we help about 75 to 80. And, families, I don't know the number of families off the top of my head, and I'm impressed that this many families are really taking advantage of it. And these are families whose parents are going back to work for a variety of reasons, who are participating, who otherwise might not be able to. And also, as you know, free and reduced lunch for schools is done, and most of these camps will help with that. Any questions on social services?
Julie, it's George. I'm just curious, do you know how much money was raised by the COVID-19 fund, the town's fund?
Yes, about $110,000. We've distributed all but $26,000 or so. And each person can come. Right, it is great. Each person can apply once. It's a one-time grant of $2,500, and it can be used towards anything COVID related. And it's good. The application isn't so cumbersome that it's uncomfortable or dissuades people from applying. We have had interest from other towns, but it is a Fairfield resident fund.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. Feel like hearing about the senior center now?
Julie, just one quick question on the social services. Has there been any experience on remote interactions between staff, social workers, and clients, or remote visits? Or
everything. We are not doing home visits or in-person appointments, but we do have the door. We will go outside with masks and talk to clients, pick up papers, have them complete forms. We're probably busier than we have been because so much can be done on the phone. We have a family, like a parent support group that one of our social workers is running, Allison Seal, is running. That's a Zoom support group, and that's been great because there's a lot of families who are home or who are struggling, and that's taking off.
Julie, we're hoping to have the bereavement thing. You probably know more what you're looking for, but I know I'm supposed to speak on Monday with Melinda.
That's great. She is completely on the same page as we are, Barbara, that there's a need, and she'll be great for you to work with. She's wonderful. But, that bereavement group is going to be great.
Okay, good. That was my next question about the bereavement group. I knew that was in the plan, so I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yep. I forgot to mention too, we got a $6,000 grant from the United Way, and we also got additional funding from Salvation Army that are COVID specific, that are to be used for rent or mortgage assistance, and we generally just do rental assistance and utilities, and that's wonderful.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's great. All right, for the senior center, we are doing everything remotely except for ice creams and hot dogs. And we are part of the SWACA has, and Linda knows this because she was SWACA. There's 14 towns in our region, and if there's any silver lining to this COVID pandemic is that our group is very unified and works fantastically together. So we're sharing programs. We meet at least weekly to discuss different things like, caregiver issues or technology issues, programming things, and then a monthly meeting to review all that we've discussed and also plan for what's next. So we're able to offer many, many more programs than we would have been able to offer otherwise, because we just don't have the time with limited staff to pursue everything, and it has been a real godsend for us and for the seniors because of the programs. We've delivered more than 40. It is great. More than 4,500 lunches to homebound seniors in Fairfield since this has started, and that's a Monday through Friday. We have yet to ask for any kind of contribution for it, and at some point we will, but that is, between our drivers and the CERT volunteers, we are seeing probably between 40 and 50 seniors a day. And every other week, I should have mentioned this in social services, but every other week we are participating with Operation Hope on a mobile food pantry. One of our social workers coordinates that, and that's groceries to homebound anybody in Fairfield who can't get to the to the food pantry. They get a box of groceries. So we're doing a pretty good job of managing food insecurity. We spend a lot of time having the drivers check in on families who have lost family members to COVID. And there are many families with children who have lost people, and we're making sure they get food as well. They're not really interested in the lunches as much, but one of our social workers did put together a activity box for different age groups, and that's been a nice way to insert ourselves, and I don't mean that freshly, but to get in, to find out what we can do to help them additionally. I'm sorry, I went back to social services, but the lunches are great. Let me think what else. We're still doing a lot of cleanup and organizing of the senior center. We've eliminated the gift shop. I think I might have mentioned that last time, and set that up as a technology or a meeting room. And that I think that's a great thing for us. Any questions on senior center things?
Yeah, quickly, Julie, it's Suzanne. Do you charge for any of your programming at the Fairfield, at the Bigelow Center? Are you all free, or do you have certain programs you charge for?
We are not charging for anything.
I was just wondering. Yeah. Okay, all right, gotcha.
No, we could. The Lifelong Learners is starting up in the fall, and they're an independent group run out of the senior center, and they will be charging. But because we're sharing these programs and we have the friends paying for a few, what we want to encourage is engagement and that connection, so we're not charging.
And also, I know sometimes when we have to hire our physical, instructors that do all the exercise classes and stuff, those bills can pile up. So we would, charge nominal fees for people like $2 or $3 a class just to help offset the cost of the instructor. And I just wasn't sure if you did that, and if you're also continuing to do it with Zoom programming or not, or WebEx or whatever you're using.
We are paying our instructors, especially our exercise instructors, and during the year, in non-COVID times, we don't charge for every class, but we charge for some. So kind of similar to how Greenwich does it. But, we are paying. It's a new budget year, and we are paying our instructors, because if we don't offer those classes, then we lose those instructors.
Well, literally, by the time I retired in 2017, we hadn't charged but towards the end of my last year, we started, asking fees, nominal ones, but,
Yep.
Thank you, Julie.
Sure. We do have the new membership form out, and we're mailing it next week to all seniors who are in our database as members. And it's two-sided. It has a much better waiver and member code of conduct on it. And when we do reopen, we're going to require pre-registration, and that'll be, and people will have to have this new membership form on file to register.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think so too.
Thank you.
Sure.
Julie, it sounded so good. This is Laura to hear you say when we do open.
Yeah.
Yeah, Laura, I was going to ask if there was a
end.
target date. Do you have a target date to open the center, or is that even in a discussion now?
Our target date was September, and when we said that, we said we would be reassessing in August, and we're at the point where we're beginning that reassessment. Again, the benefit of being part of this area agency on aging, the SWACA, is that is a huge topic that we discuss, and to be unified and focused as a group is very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have met with the first select woman who is supportive and asks the right questions, and the health director is very involved. So I will follow their guidance and make recommendations. I'm not quite ready to announce that yet, but we're very close.
That's great. That's good news.
Yeah, thanks. All right, and for transportation, we ready for that?
Sure, far away.
Excellent. I did go before the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance and the RTM committees to accept our bus grant and our operations expenses grants. As you know, we got approved for a new bus, and that it's a formality to have it go through the town bodies, but they need to review them and make sure that these are expenditures that we want to make. The bus grant was easy because the remainder, the 20% that we cover, 80% is covered by the grant, 20% is covered by our donations. So that was the easy one. The second one is more of a matching grant, and we submit for that if we're supposed to expand our hours for transportation. And because we're not open, that's going to be tricky, but we won't lose them any money, but we will get reimbursed for some of it, for half of it, if we do start going above and beyond hours that we're offering now. And those programs that we're offering now are still shopping and medical appointments. No hairdressers. The libraries aren't open yet. So we're expanding an extra day for doctors, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we're still doing Tuesday, Thursday shopping for any resident who does not live in senior housing, because we're using our GBT grant to cover senior housing.
Julie, where do those grants come from? Are they state grants?
They are state and federal grants. They're they're called 5310 grants, and therefore the Federal Transit Authority give them to states, and the states disperse them.
Thank you.
Yep. That's it on transportation.
All right. Any questions for Julie on either department, social services, or transportation reports? Julie, just the volunteers that are supporting the lunch deliveries, do you have sufficient numbers there? Are you meeting operational requirements, or?
Yeah, they're the CERT volunteers, the Citizen Emergency Response Team, and
right.
We do have 3 buses most days delivering lunch, and we have 1 person on each of those buses, which is perfect because the drivers pull up, the volunteer runs out, and they're also trained in first aid. They're trained in the basics of psychological first aid. So if they see something, they report back to us, or the drivers do. So right now it is working really well. If there's a hurricane and they're called away, we may have to find a different way to deliver or go back to having staff do it, but it really is working very well. And they've identified a few concerns that we've been able to act on that we wouldn't know otherwise.
That's good to hear. Is the training a requirement?
To be a CERT volunteer, yeah, they go through a rigorous training. So we call through them to request the volunteers.
I hear you. Okay. All right. Is there any other business before the commission? All right. Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll be happy to make that motion, Mr. Chairman. Suzanne Tristani.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Laura Inserto, second.
Thank you, Laura. With any discussion? Hearing none. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation. The next meeting is scheduled for September 24th, and there'll be some communication before that for the members of the planning committee regarding the retreat. So thank you all.
Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Julie.
Be safe,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, everyone. Be well, everyone.
Great work.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.